As a sophomore in high school, Donovan Mitchell was not ranked by any recruiting service. As a college freshman, he was not on any scout's draft board. And finally, in his sophomore year, when he was taken in the NBA draft, the team that originally took him traded him. But despite all of this, despite being doubted at every single point of his basketball career, this season Donovan Mitchell has taken the NBA by storm and is seen by many as a future NBA star. So the only question is, how did he do it? So what's up guys, Mike here, and yes, today we are going to be talking about the man Donovan Mitchell. We're going to look at his story before the NBA. We're going to find out how he made such tremendous improvement in his game, and we're going to discover just what he did to prove all of his haters wrong. So enough talking, let's just get started. Donovan Mitchell never thought he had a chance at becoming a professional basketball player, let alone an NBA star. In fact, as a kid growing up in New York and Connecticut, Donovan had a different dream. Like many sons, Donovan wanted to be just like his father, who was a former minor league baseball player. So it was baseball that was his first love. But luckily, his family knew that basketball was his future. And so by the time his sophomore year in high school began, Donovan's mother almost had him convinced. He needed to put all of his time into basketball and see how far the sport could take him. This meant giving up baseball completely, and at first, Donovan kind of agreed. But then the school's baseball coach actually begged him to play. Donovan would give in, and surprisingly, it was this decision to play baseball that may have paved the way to his future NBA stardom. Because in a game of his sophomore baseball season, a routine pop-up would change the course of Donovan Mitchell's life. Due to some miscommunication, Mitchell and the team's catcher crashed into each other in an attempt to catch the ball. This collision broke Donovan's wrist, and so his baseball season was over. What was even worse, though, was that this broken wrist meant that he would not be able to play AAU basketball in the summer. Now, Donovan was almost a completely unknown prospect at this time. This summer was supposed to be huge for him. It was the summer that could put him on the map. Instead of playing basketball, though, he found himself rehabbing his wrist, and this began to put things into perspective for him. As Donovan remembers, that injury changed my outlook on everything. I had to learn to appreciate things a little more. I was sad and cried a little bit, but it definitely built that hunger back inside of me to focus on basketball. Sitting out that summer with injury ignited a fire in Donovan Mitchell's soul, a newfound desire to become great. So in order to live up to this dream, he decided to transfer to Brewster Academy. As his coach Jason Smith would later remember, when he arrived here, he didn't have a number next to his name or a national ranking, but he was hungry. Almost immediately, Donovan was given a chance to prove himself to his future teammates. Matching up in a scrimmage against an older top recruit by the name of Chris McCullough, a player who would later be a first-round pick, Donovan took it to Chris time and time again and eventually led his team to a convincing win. Jason Smith would remember this moment and would share it with NBA scouts whenever he got the chance. Because to Jason, this was the moment that he realized Donovan Mitchell could be special. Knowing that he had to outwork everyone to catch up, Donovan practically lived in the gym during his final 2 years at Brewster. This dedication would pay off big time, as by the time his Brewster career was over, Donovan had become a defensive monster and had led Brewster to 2 straight national championships. And what's more, he had risen from an unranked recruit to the number 43rd ranked recruit in the nation. But still, he was just the 43rd recruit in the nation, which meant in order to fulfill his goals, in order to become great, there was still a lot of hard work left to do. Donovan would join Louisville as a man on a mission, as finally he wanted to fulfill his true potential. He wanted to get the recognition that he knew he could earn. And again, From the first time he stepped foot on a basketball court at a new school, Mitchell began to turn heads. After watching an early season practice in which Donovan dunked at an alarming rate, Rick Pitino turned to his assistant coach and said, "This kid is special." Just like his high school coach, Pitino knew that Donovan had the tools to become elite. The only thing he needed to do to fulfill this potential was to put in the work. This was no problem for Donovan, as the gym had become his second home. Every free second of his day was spent on improving his game, and by the end of his freshman season, he had made some serious improvements. But still, he was not considered a big-time NBA prospect. Much like Russell Westbrook's freshman season at UCLA, Donovan found himself playing behind older veteran guards, which meant his offensive chances were limited. When given the chance, he was able to average 7.4 points a game, but that was nowhere near good enough for Donovan or his coach. So headed into that summer, Pitino told him, "Look, Donovan, you're a freak athlete, but if you're serious about this game, you have to get a jump shot with arc and really develop it." And because he is Donovan Mitchell, because his work ethic cannot be matched, Donovan took these words to heart. By the time Louisville began to practice for Mitchell's sophomore season, Pitino was in awe. He remembers thinking, "I haven't seen a guy improve his jump shot more than him in my 40 years of coaching." And because of this dramatic improvement, Donovan became the focal point of Louisville's offense. His numbers would improve to 15.6 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.1 steals a game. But what's more, his once broken jump shot had now been fixed. Donovan would connect on 2.4 threes a game during his sophomore season, while leading the Cardinals to a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, Louisville would be upset in the second round of that tournament, which meant it was time for Donovan to turn his attention to the NBA. But remarkably, despite his obvious improvements, many scouts still did not like Donovan Mitchell's game. They ignored his 6'10" wingspan and thought he was undersized at the point guard position. Trust me guys, these doubts were real. So real that Donovan almost decided to go back to Louisville for his junior year. And if it weren't for the advice of 2 NBA stars, this season Donovan may have been playing college basketball. Because after his sophomore season ended, Donovan went to California to train for the draft. It was there that he began to play games against NBA players such as Paul George, Chris Paul, and Julius Randle. In these games, Donovan more than held his own, and after a day in which he seemingly scored at will, Paul George and Chris Paul pulled him aside and told him it was time to go pro. As Chris Paul remembers, sometimes you can just see it in a person. He's going to be good for a long time. Donovan would keep his name in the draft, and by the time workouts came around, his stock began to explode. Once seen as a mid to late first round pick, many were convinced that he would now be selected in the lottery, and he was. But even the team that chose him did not have faith in him, as the Nuggets would take him with the 13th pick, but they would trade him to the Jazz. And already, this trade looks like a colossal mistake, because from the moment he took the court as a pro in the NBA Summer League, the Jazz knew they had gotten a steal. Donovan would play in just 2 games that summer, but 2 games were more than enough, as he averaged a staggering 28 points and 6 steals a game. Not surprisingly, these numbers turned heads around the league, and so after a summer filled with hype, Jazz fans eagerly awaited the start of Donovan Mitchell's career. He would not disappoint. Wearing the number 45 to honor the number Michael Jordan wore as a baseball player, Donovan began the first 11 games of this year averaging 13 points, 2.3 assists, and 1.1 steals a game. These were solid numbers for a rookie, but things have only gotten better. Due to some injuries on Utah's roster, Donovan has become a full-time starter, and since that time, he's put up an awesome 20.5 points, 4 assists, and 1.7 steals a night. These are incredible numbers for any NBA rookie, let alone someone who was drafted out of the top 10 But these numbers also should be no surprise, because as we've seen at every step of Donovan Mitchell's basketball career, people doubted him, and in order to quiet those doubts, he simply worked harder than everyone else. His coach Quinn Snyder said it best when he told the media, "The thing I'm most excited about with Donovan is his work ethic and his thirst to learn." Finally, a lifetime of hard work had paid off big time, and everyone began to take notice. So let's begin here with the thoughts of Kevin Garnett, who, when asked if Donovan Mitchell was the most underrated rookie, said,
"To answer your question, yes, I think he's probably is the most underrated. This kid tonight, he was the one that they was looking for to get a bucket. This kid has an alpha about himself that you got to give some attention to."
This alpha mentality, this desire to have the ball with the game on the line has shown time and time again this season. So let's jump ahead to December 1st, where against the Pelicans, the Jazz are down 6 with 4 minutes left before Donovan begins to take over. First, he drives to the lane and hits a layup. A minute later, he frees himself up with a sweet in and out and knocks down a huge 3 to cut the lead to 1. Then, after a stop, he finds an open Joe Ingles to give the Jazz a 2-point lead. The Pelicans would score on the other end though, which meant it was a tie game, and so
they keep the ball in Mitchell's hands.
Donovan slides in the paint, scoop it up, and 2 more!
And finally, now up 2, Donovan puts the Pelicans away for good with an and 1. He would finish this game with 41 points, and just to put into perspective how ridiculous that is, it took Russell Westbrook and James Harden 3 years to break 40 points, and Kawhi Leonard, a man who has been the runner-up for the MVP, had his first 40-point game last year in his 6th season. And so, after this absurd performance, DeMarcus Cousins put everyone's thoughts into words simply by saying, "Utah got a star, man, for real." And Cousins isn't the only one who thinks Mitchell could be the future of the NBA. Let's fast forward to December 17th. Where after dropping 26 points in a loss to the Cavs, LeBron was asked about Donovan and said,
"He's a player. Kid got a lot of game. He's not afraid of the moment. They've been riding that wave all season since they realized what they actually got."
Later, he would call Donovan the young king on Instagram. And the next time they played, Donovan would live up to that name. As when they were up 1 late in the game, Utah put the ball in the hands of Donovan Mitchell. And again,
Mitchell going to work. Flips it up and in.
Thanks to this clutch basket, the Jazz would go on to win, and again, Donovan put up an impressive stat line of 29 points and 6 assists. He had backed up LeBron's words. In fact, he had backed up the words of a lot of NBA stars. Because game in and game out, every time Utah plays someone new, it seems like someone on the other team feels the need to endorse Donovan Mitchell. Even Russell Westbrook, a man who is notorious for not being overly friendly to young players, took Donovan aside to share with him some personal advice. But again, this type of special treatment doesn't surprise me, because Donovan Mitchell is not a normal young player. As we've learned from this video, Donovan Mitchell is special. At the end of the day, everything about this man impresses me. He has the God-given talent to succeed. He has the work ethic to become great. And as Kevin Garnett himself said, Donovan has that alpha mentality that sets him apart. That's the kind of player that I would root for, and that's the kind of player that I would bet on. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. Remember, we are on that New Year's grind. From now on, every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there will be a video on this channel posted at 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you love basketball, if you love the NBA, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss a video. And if you're already subscribed, I think we all know this by now, you are awesome. And as always, have an awesome day, and cue that music.